Hello everyone, I am Crawlers and this is another episode of What I've Been Up To, a random series I have going talking about some things that happened to me that well, this isn't a vlog or anything like that because I hate those things and I don't make these episodes, too often because stuff, doesn't usually happen to me, but here we go anyway. So, on the PC side, I bought myself an ultra-wide 21 by 9 monitor, and well, strictly saying, this is a 64 by 27 aspect ratio, but it's code 21 by 9 because the 9 is easier for people to understand, coming over from 16 by 9 monitors. But don't worry, I'll still be recording my video games, my videos in regular 16 by 9 aspect ratio, so you find people of the interwebs can, view them full screen without the black bars on top and bottom of the video, as, it won't be stretched out. I suppose I'll record it and just crop it out somehow, but, just to make them easier to view. Now, why exactly buy an ultra-wide monitor, you might ask? Well, I mean, because I'm a member of the PC Master Race. But, seriously. Well, mostly because of gaming, and gaming looks absolutely incredible on an ultra-wide monitor. In fact, it's like staring into the asshole of a unicorn that's just starting to shit out a golden rainbow. Once you game on an ultra-wide monitor, I think you'd consider anything else peasantry and wonder how you ever did without one. It's literally like coming over from a letterbox monitor to a widescreen. I mean, racing especially looks incredible, but other games as well, and as well as some CinemaScope movies. But mainly it's just, games like, I don't know, Titanfall, Battlefield, Assetto Corsa, what have you. And also, if you have about 1,000 porn tabs open in Chrome and at the same time, and you are working in graphic design and need several windows open side by side, and in fact, once you game on this monitor, I think, and go back to the widescreen monitor, you'd kind of wonder where all the stuff on the sides went, and you'd be looking for it and not finding it. Well, as I mentioned, racing is an incredible application of this monitor, and that's something I've been getting into the past few months on my PC. As I showed you in a couple of videos before, I have my G27 wheel going here, and I am playing Assetto Corsa whenever I can, and that is, I think that is just fun as hell to do, and incidentally serves as a bit of physical therapy for me, because it's the most movement I do in any given day outside, lifting a fork to my mouth and putting it back down again. And I just usually sit at my PC, most of the time. And it's a very welcome and frankly fun as both, time spending, shifting, drifting, mashing gears. I do it all, and making stupid mistakes, obviously, but I do it for fun, not to win races. And another reason for such a huge monitor is that when I race and unfold the G27 stand and put it upright, to my table, I obviously move back about a foot from my monitor to accommodate the wheel. So in effect, the monitor becomes smaller as I'm further away from it. And this 23-inch monitor that I had was just, tiny in comparison. But I'm not throwing it away, no, by any means. I'm actually giving it to my granddad, as I have just finished building a PC for him, as his Windows XP Dell piece of shit was over 10 years old, and he was not liking it one bit. He wanted me to build him essentially a gaming PC, despite my protests that he doesn't need it, but more on that later. I was never actually even considering an ultra-wide monitor before for myself, or anyone for that matter, as I was just browsing regular widescreens online, and then when I accidentally stumbled on a Linus Tech Tips review of a 1440p version of this monitor, it was a sort of a revelation. Everything made sense, and I just fell in love with it at first sight. And I mean, whenever I buy something supremely expensive like this, I usually take one look at it, and in the first few seconds, in the beginning, it just makes sense to me, or it doesn't. And well, then I obviously consider the reviews and all sorts of benchmarks for it, and maybe buy it. This one just kind of made sense to me, being wide enough to cover the empty space on my table that looked so lonely, on the sides of this monitor that I had. Being large enough so that it doesn't seem tiny when I move back to accommodate my racing wheel, seemingly still something that my 780 can handle without buying a new video card or an SOI or something like that. And a single screen that is quite a bit cheaper than buying 3 monitors at once, which could, easily run into $900 or even more at, I don't know, 300 a pop. So, and now I'm gonna talk a little bit about the properties of this monitor. I'm not gonna review it as I'm not knowledgeable enough, and I might not cover all of the specifications right, or say the right things, but I'll mention a few things I know about it in this video anyway. And so here we go. Now this is an LG 34 UM65 34-inch monitor, and obviously it's an ultra-wide. Now this monitor is still 1080p, which means that although there are 2650 pixels over the width of the screen, there are only 1080 in the height. Now some people will say that this kind of size of a monitor requires 1440p, otherwise the pixel density becomes less than ideal for things like gaming. And well, that they may be right technically. The 1440p version of this monitor cost quite a bit more, and as you can imagine, I probably could not afford that one, even if I didn't eat for a year. Now also, by doing some basic maths, the kind I did here on paper, you can plainly see that the 34 inches is not the real life number that should scare you as far as the dimensions go. By calculating the diagonal equivalent of a 16:9 monitor, you will see that the actual height of this thing is equal to that of a 27-inch widescreen monitor, namely about 13.5 inches. So really, the 1080p side of this monitor only gets expanded by about 2 inches from the one I have right now, and so I really don't think that that's gonna look too bad and require a 1440p necessary. Another plus of this monitor is that it's an IPS panel and not a TN panel. And while some people swear by TN monitors for gaming and their blazing fast response times, what IPS always wins over TN is the color reproduction and viewing angle, which is usually pretty terrible on TN monitors. Sure, they are quite a bit slower on the response time, but unless you're playing competitively like CSGO or something like that, you won't even notice. That and IPS monitors are catching up to the TNs in response time somewhat. And considering this monitor is so large, you're essentially watching the edges from a steep angle when sitting in the center. And if this was a TN monitor, those colors would go black and weird and psychedelic, and it just wouldn't look good at an angle. There are some cool features about this monitor though, like that you can run standard 16:9 things on it, like games or movies with, black bars on the sides. Or you can go all out, balls to the wall, 2560 by 1080. Basically, the way that you can run these things, because let's say there is a game like Road Redemption here that doesn't support anything above 1920 by 1080, so you don't want it to look all stretched out on the screen. So what you do is you go into the menu, the on-screen menu, and you have several choices here. You can select the picture size, which is wide, cinematic, original, and 1:1, I believe. Now, when you select the original, what it does is it shows whatever number of pixels the game or the app runs in. Like if it's in 1920 by 1080, you will see black bars on the sides, and if it's more than that, it will just show more than that. And if you select wide with the same app, then it just stretches out everything to fill the screen sideways. So a very cool feature this, and incidentally something that will make recording in widescreen a lot easier for me without having to worry about cropping the video and quality degradation. And obviously I won't have to cut part of my game off when I render my videos, like mini maps on the sides of the screen in Battlefield 4 and such. You can also use the built-in split screen feature, useful for some, like designers, to have several panels open automatically, or you can just snap them to the sides using Windows. Another fun feature of this thing is the dual inputs working in real time. Now, this monitor has an HDMI, a DVI, and a DisplayPort input, but what you can do here is use two of them simultaneously and watch different things in split screen. Say you want to have your PC connected to it as well as your Blu-ray player or a laptop or something else. Actually, in this case, I was building a PC for my mother, and a very simple work machine without dedicated video card or anything like that. And when I was installing apps on it, I connected it to this monitor side by side with my own PC, so I could control both from the same seat, without having to move my ass over between the PCs. So this is pretty cool. As I call it, I have transcended to the next level of PC Master Race. But obviously in a case like this, each PC would need its own set of mouse and keyboard, so that's why my room was looking quite a bit a mess over the past 2 days, as I was assembling 2 PCs and having 3 keyboards, 3 mice, and 2 monitors going, and a bunch of hardware and boxes all over the place. And I even had a bit of a problem here, an issue. I assembled my grandfather's PC, went to install Windows, and it was giving me blue screens of death every time I tried to install Windows, and I nearly broke my head trying to figure this thing out. Even I was thinking it was the memory probably, but after running memtest for a few cycles, it checked out. So eventually what I found out I did was I took out both of the RAM sticks and I replaced it with some other RAM that I fortunately had in my drawer, and it put it back up again, went all to install Windows. So it turned out it was a defective RAM stick, because then I checked out one of them and put it back in, and it ran fine with one of them. So yeah, that was a bit of a side story that I went through in the past few days. Now, I'm not gonna show you the factory menu thing on this monitor, that you can control with this joystick underneath, or mention the detachable stand or option for wall mounting. no, what I'm gonna do is mention the input real quick. Now, this is something I actually didn't know until I saw it in a review video, but essentially what happens is there are limitations to what your cables can do. HDMI, for example, has limitations. Now, I don't presume to know everything about these cables or inputs, but maybe someone can correct me in the comment section if I say something stupid. But essentially what I found was that while HDMI will do fine 2560 by 1080 at 60 Hz, it will be kept to 30 Hz anywhere above that. So, like if this was a 1440p monitor, this wouldn't, I wouldn't do well to use an HDMI cable. Now, what would I use, you may ask? Well, I'd use a DisplayPort, and it's too bad they're not very popular these days. In fact, my previous monitor only had HDMI inputs. Now, the DisplayPort can go as high as 4K at the moment, I believe, with 60 Hz refresh rate. Now, HDMI 2.0 will do a lot more than what it can now, and that's not really a thing yet. So, a DisplayPort is the way to go for most of the high-resolution stuff at the moment. So, I think that's all about this monitor I have to say, but seriously, this has got to be the most ridiculous thing I have ever bought. I thought it would be, huge and overwhelming, but as I look at it right now, it's just, well, the panel is obviously very big, but it's not overwhelming, it's mostly because it's just stretched out side to side and not vertically, so it's just a lot of fun. As I said, I've done a few things this week outside my own PC, like put the other two PCs together, as I just mentioned, for my family from components that I bought on Newegg and Amazon and whatnot. And I don't believe, because I don't believe in the prefab PCs, mostly because building things mostly because I like building things, and also because this way I can control what goes into it and where it's made and, the price. And by weird coincidence, they both arrived at the same time, and here I am building them. I also did a couple of other things this week, like get my foot nearly fractured when I bashed it against the ground to stop my fall when my wheelchair was bumped hard against the step outside. So I was in quite a bit of a pain, stupor, a few days, so I couldn't, drive a set. Of course, I had a swollen foot, but it seems to be better now. And here I am recording this video for you fine people, So thanks for watching. Please rate and share this video, that helps my channel grow. Check out my other videos at the end of this one. And remember, in Soviet Russia, YouTube subscribes you.